I'm Bridgit Patterson, and I'm Program Director for the Epilepsy Foundation of Missouri and Kansas, and I'm so very excited for you to meet my friend Miller and his family. Miller's epilepsy journey takes him through seasons of fear, disappointments, hope, courage, and resilience, and we are so very honored to share his story with you. That good?
See, if you do good, then we're out of here right away.
Wow. Can I flip off the camera? Hey, stop. You told us you were going to be good.
Forgot about that.
Arcade games.
Okay.
All right. How about we just start with the general, whoever, or if each of you want to introduce yourself? That's right.
I'm not introducing myself.
All right,
Yes, you are.
Then your folks can introduce you. It's good.
I'm Liz. I'm Miller's mother. And this is Miller.
Hi.
And I'm Aaron, Miller's dad.
Good deal. Can you tell us a little bit about Miller's journey with epilepsy?
Sure. So Miller was diagnosed with epilepsy in 2019. He had a seizure in the middle of the night. He woke up not feeling well and came in and got in bed with me. Fell asleep on my chest. Woke up an hour or so later having a tonic-clonic seizure on me. He was taken to the emergency room where we thought maybe it might have been a febrile seizure, and did some testing. The testing came back abnormal. We went home with a plan to follow up with a neurologist, and 2 evenings later, when we were getting ready for bed, he had another seizure. That one lasted that one lasted 4 minutes, and he quit breathing, turned blue, and I did rescue breaths on him. He was life watched to Wichita after that, where we spent a couple days in the hospital trying to determine exactly what was the cause of his epilepsy and his seizures.
So what did you discover as you went forward? What did you discover as the cause?
Well, so we started, I don't know how I want to say this.
Just FYI, we're going to get a lot of footage.
Okay.
And we're not going to use,
Okay.
we'll use maybe 10 or 15%.
Let's not say so much.
Okay. So we started doctoring in Wichita, and his seizures, stop it. So we started doctoring in Wichita. His seizures were not getting any better. We were adding medication, and we weren't feeling comfortable with the care that we were receiving in Wichita. So we got a referral to Children's Mercy Hospital in Kansas City, where we met Dr. Begg. And our first appointment with Dr. Begg, he told us that his goal for his patients is 0 seizures. And through the course of our treatment with Children's Mercy, we determined that he had focal cortical dysplasia. His seizures became refractory. Medication upon medication was tried, and we did not receive any seizure freedom. And he was then, we started the surgery process for a resection of the focal cortical dysplasia. The first surgery that we had was only successful for 12 days, and his seizures returned. Thankfully, the first surgery, they believe, cut the ability for the seizures to spread to tonic-clonic, but we had to wait 6 months for his brain to heal, and we had a second surgery. This time, instead of just doing a 1-stage surgery where we went right in and did the resection, the surgery plan for this one was to do an SEEG, try to capture as many seizures as we could before the surgery on Friday, where they did a second resection. Thankfully, this resection has been successful for almost 2 years. Surprisingly, when they sent the pathology report out, it was determined that his FCD was actually caused by a rare brain tumor called a ganglioglioma. So he also has the ganglioglioma that cause the cells around to become abnormal, also becoming focal cortical dysplasia.
So Miller, I know you're anxious to get in on this.
No.
Yeah.
Come on.
So can you tell us a little about, just tell me a little bit about how this has been for you when this first started? What did you think about it all?
I was okay with it.
Pretty good? No big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was no big deal, even when mom wouldn't let you go do things.
No,
and-
you were just being annoying.
Hey, come on. But you did feel like
I was mad that she wouldn't let me climb trees.
Took away some of your activities and couldn't go do some of that stuff. Weren't allowed to ride your bike quite as much. So we kind of had to learn a process as to how we were going to attack some of those fun stuff, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was it being in the hospital? How did you feel about that?
I didn't like the IVs. That was probably fine. I just watched TV or played games the whole time.
Can be kind of boring, can it?
Yes.
what about some of the things that Child Life did for you when you were in the hospital?
Ooh, I like the slime.
You've made slime when you've been in the hospital for EEGs. We spent a lot of time in hospitals with 96-hour EEGs, SEEGs, routine EEGs, and Child Life at Children's Mercy has been amazing. Some really cool things that he's got to do and activities while he's in there.
They even brought a dog in for you, didn't they?
Yeah.
And what else
Yeah.
did you get to do when you were in there in that ICU?
Pet the dog?
No, for the draft.
For the draft.
Oh yeah. I gotta watch the draft as a robot.
Really?
Yeah.
Kind of explain how that worked, how they came in and what you were. So that was when the draft was in Kansas City.
Yeah.
So that would have been a year and a half ago when the draft was here in Kansas City. So they gave him the opportunity to be a part of the draft and kind of get a walk the red carpet. So he was actually, well, what you would call like a robot. You were an iPad with a jersey on, and you got to walk down the red carpet, and then you kind of got to be front row during the draft.
I got carried down the red carpet. My robot didn't work.
Yeah, your robot did have some troubles, yes.
So how has life been for the last couple of years for you since your seizures have stopped?
It's been a lot better.
How so? What's been better?
I felt a lot better. Just not as tired. And no more headaches.
It's huge.
What about sports and stuff like that?
There's not much of a difference.
But don't you think you've got to do a lot of really cool things in school and track and stuff like that?
I can still do that.
You don't want to tell us about some of the successes you've had?
Okay. I've got first place in 100 and 200 hurdles. Yeah, that's probably about it.
No, you set the 6th grade record for.
Oh, yeah. I set the 6th grade record for long jump.
Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
And you got to be on the varsity this year as a 7th grader.
Yeah, but there are no
Basketball.
8th graders. There's nobody else. Like,
So you're a track guy. Do you play any other sports?
basketball.
Basketball? What position?
Guard.
And you also like to play golf.
Yeah, but there was not a difference. I don't compete in golf.
Not yet. But that's probably been one of the best things about the surgery too, is that in the summers you're allowed to go out and play golf a little bit more. Not necessarily always on your own, but even now you've been able to play on your own, where before everybody was a little bit nervous about letting you go out there on your own. So you've had a lot of success since this last surgery to be able to give you a little bit more independence, wouldn't you think?
Yeah.
What about your friends? Do
I
your
don't-
friends look at, like, were they comfortable around you? Did they support you?
Yeah.
Can you expand on that?
No.
Didn't really talk about it much.
Yes. I did not talk about it.
Okay.
Not putting that in the video.
tell me a little bit about your association with Bridgit and Epilepsy Foundation, how that relationship has developed, what sort of support they've given to your family.
So when he was first diagnosed, I'm the type of person that I'm gonna research everything I can so I can be as prepared as I can when I'm going to the school, when I'm going to doctor's appointments, and I reach out to the Epilepsy Foundation initially because our school district is a very small school district, and when he was first diagnosed, we did not have a school nurse on staff, and watching your child have a seizure for 4 minutes and they quit breathing and turn blue, it's terrifying. Thinking of sending them into somebody else's care. And so I had reached out to Epilepsy Foundation to try to figure out what can we do to try to get a nurse hired, at the very least get some training and some knowledge into our school building so that I felt safe sending him to school. And so eventually the school district agreed to hire a school nurse, and we've also implemented seizure training for all of our staff at the school that they do at the beginning of each school year, part of their in-service training. The first year, the Epilepsy Foundation and Bridgit did the training with us, and now our school nurse that we have, she does that training every year. I sit in on the trainings just so that to give them an idea of what it looks like for Miller specifically, so they can have a better understanding of what it would look like for him. In our district, we have also had other children since him that have been diagnosed with epilepsy, and this child's epilepsy doesn't look like Miller's epilepsy does. Miller has more of the, he has tonic-clonic generalized seizures that are very easy to spot. And this child had more of just the blank stare, the focal seizures, where it could really be misconstrued that maybe they're not paying attention. And because of this training that the teachers got, the students' seizures were actually recognized as seizures, and they were able to get an epilepsy diagnosis based on what the teachers reported back to the mother, and it was very helpful for them.
Right. Aaron, how has your journey been with this?
Let's see. I would say my journey's probably been more led by Liz because of the knowledge that she has developed and how much research, like she said, she's all in to figure out the best way for him. I'm probably there more as try to give as much support as I can because I'm not going to be able to provide near as much as what she can. She's a lot smarter than I am, and she can really dive in and figure out how to get him the best care. So that's been kind of the overall goal, is just to try to take care of him the best way that we know how to take care of him. And yeah, then sending him off to school. So like she talked about the school training and going through there, and it's not just training, administration or just who his teachers are, but it goes all the way down to like one of the big ones for us is for the bus drivers, because right now he takes a 10-minute ride each way to school back and forth. So during that 10 minutes, the kids can actually, they all kind of know, the kids in his class have kind of been through, they've seen what his seizures look like, but then they're also able to inform the bus driver if something happens. So the training side of it and getting the knowledge out there, as Liz said, it's been a big help, and I think it's really good for the school. For me, just seeing him ever since second surgery, even as he spoke of, just not being as tired and not having the headaches, we feel like we're getting him back to where it's the kid that we used to have, wanting to do stuff. And before, when, we're just always giving him medicine, and that medicine just makes you tired because they're trying to slow everything down. So, instead of wanting to go out and play sports or go out and do any games or play card games, he was tired, and it wasn't necessarily him making an excuse for it. It was shutting his body down, and he just needed to get the rest. So that's been a huge difference here lately, is just the amount of medication going down, his brain not having the seizures all the time, And just seeing the growth that he's had over the last 2 years just amazes me.
It's awesome.
From the time that he had his first relapse, he had over 400 documented seizures between the relapse and his second surgery. So he was having a seizure every single day, upwards of 5-6 seizures a day. And, you know, his body was barely having time to recover before the next day he was having another seizure again. He was on 5 different medications. We tried 6. All of them make him tired. All of them make, you know, cognitive difficulties, brain fog, all of those things. And now his brain is finally clear. It is healed. And we're down to only 3 medications. And the change in him is...
I would say you would probably agree that the change is better to be able to do. So when he first started having seizures, he was a smart kid. He was really excelled at math. By the time he was in the middle of having the 400 seizures, the math problems he could do when he was a 3rd grader, he couldn't do as a 5th grader. And even as a 6th grader, as it got to that point where it was really difficult for him. But over the last year, even you would probably admit of how much easier it is for you to look at some of those problems compared to how much of a... You're pretty smart in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
But wouldn't you agree that the classwork this last year has been a lot easier than it was during 5th and 6th grade when you were still kind of recovering and being on all the medication, and how much clearer your mind is? You can do those problems again, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something I think people don't realize with epilepsy is the quality of life. You know, when you don't have that seizure control, the quality of life, and it's those hidden things too, right? Of quality of life that you don't realize for someone with epilepsy. I mean, the things they're fighting on a daily basis, you know, most of his seizures happened at home, thankfully, that we could be with him and that they weren't in front of a lot of people. But, you know, so people wouldn't see him have that seizure as soon as he wakes up. They would only see him as he got to school when he could barely function and he was so tired, and he was coming home from school because he was so tired he couldn't make it through the day. And the quality of life is so important to have that seizure control. Something that Dr. Baig promised for us is that 0 seizures is imperative to have the quality of life of someone who doesn't have a chronic condition but they're fighting every single day.
Awesome. So how did that impact your daughter? What was her? It had to be stressful for her as well because of this impact.
It was. That's probably one of the hardest things as a mom, is knowing that we have her at home. I'll admit I wasn't a good mom to her, because I had to put everything into him. You know, we wanted to see the end for him, and she's mentioned, you know, you don't spend as much time with me, and you know, you do all these things for Miller, and I know, and I saw it. I knew when it was happening that she was being left behind. I wish I could go back and change it. I wish I could have been a better mom to her. But thankfully, we have some amazing family and friends that picked up for us. Aaron's sister and her husband and 2 daughters were there for us at a drop of a hat for any time we needed to do, you know, doctor's appointments and emergency room visits and everything. And so that made it so much easier, because I knew that when I was gone, I knew she was getting so loved at home. But it affects our whole family. I mean, and it's not even just immediate family. It's, we have a very close relationship with his sister and our nieces, and it affects them, and so it's so broad. You think that you can keep it encapsulated inside your family, but
And like for Hudson, she has the biggest heart. So she just wants to help as well. Like, she understands that we're probably not giving her everything that she needs, but she also wanted to help and do anything that she could to help him. And it was difficult because she wanted to provide that help, but we didn't really know what that help was. There was things that she couldn't really do. So that was really difficult on that side because she wanted to do anything she could, or she was really watching to see if he was going to have a seizure. It used to be every morning before we had the second surgery, every morning we'd be eating breakfast together and he'd have a seizure during breakfast. And every day, so we started counting them. So she would go on and she'd either count in her head, so we knew because we were tracking every seizure, how long they were. So that was how she could help. And, at first when it would happen, or if I didn't see it right away, she'd get up and run over there to make sure he didn't fall out of his chair. So it was those things that she was always wanting to help and do everything that she could. But as Liz said, it was really difficult for the focus really to be on her. And she was really tough through that and really helped us and helped him quite a bit on it. And then same way as Liz was saying is that with our family side of it, with my sister and my brother-in-law and my two nieces, the sacrifices they've had to make along the way with us too, because there's certain things that we can't do that we could do before that he can't do now. So, it's having the sleepovers, it's having the things where like he would want to go, but we've got the monitoring on his bed, we've got the camera, we have everything into place where he couldn't have that regular childhood and be able to go do that, or vacations that we would take, or going to water parks, or going to different places that they knew how to acclimate with us so that we were all kind of doing the same things together, but knowing that there was going to be sacrifices that had to be made to look out for him.
Yes, for sure. So what message would you like to share for other families who maybe haven't come out, aren't quite as far along as you folks are at this point? What would you share with them in terms of lessons you've learned from going through this?
I would tell other families to learn as much as you can, because you are your child's best advocate. So much of what happens with epilepsy happens at home, and to be able to understand it so you can report to doctors so that you can get them the best care is so important. And your child the best. Don't ever stop fighting for them, because I don't want to say you can be here, because I know that not every child is ever going to maybe get this type of freedom, but even just the quality of life. And don't settle when your gut says this isn't right, or I know we can do more. We love our care at Children's Mercy, but we were very frustrated and devastated when his first surgery didn't work. And we sought a second opinion, and we left the state to go decide if what the treatment we were getting here was the right treatment. And it was, and we came back, but I needed to know as a mother that I was exhausting all opportunities to give him the best opportunity. And we ended up coming back to Children's Mercy and doing the second surgery here in Kansas City. But I won't regret fighting and exhausting all efforts to get to that point.
How long did it take you from the initial onset to get to an epilepsy specialist?
So he had his first seizure in September of 2019, and we saw a neurologist in Wichita right away, but we got a referral to Children's Mercy in November of 2019. Thankfully, somehow we got an open appointment within, I think from the time that we said we need to go somewhere else to his appointment was less than a month. And somebody else had a hand in us getting that appointment with Dr. Vague, with getting Dr. Vague as our neurologist. Because even now, like when we try to set up a follow-up appointment with Dr. Vague, I mean, it's 4 or 5 months just a follow-up appointment as an established patient. So something fell the right way for us to get very lucky. And I know a lot of patients, especially with refractory epilepsy, it's years and years and years until epilepsy surgery is on the table. And thankfully for him, that wasn't the case. But I would not accept no for an answer. And, you got to just keep fighting.
And without the documentation, like Liz said, without showing everything and really pushing the doctor and saying, this is what we're seeing and this is the research that I've done, and asking his opinion, of course, but also saying, here's what we're seeing. And the documentation was probably huge. I mean, it was every time he had a seizure, how long it was, what time of day it was, all the meds, so that by having all that information just really helped push it along. It was kind of I don't know if it was necessarily a difficult discussion with the doctor, but he wasn't really sure if he knew if that's really what we wanted to do. I mean, we were kind of pushing for it, but then the reaction that, Liz started crying that day, and then he was like, no, he kind of felt like I was pushing for it. But when he said, yes, we can do it, and the reaction that he got, it was actually relief from Liz. I mean, she's like, yes, that's what I want to do. But from his opinion of it, he was like, he thought it was, yes, we were scared, but I think that he was thinking that no, one of us wanted to, one of us didn't, when we both did. And that was just because knowledge is power, like Liz said, is that she had done all the research and had seen all these success stories and like how it works and why we need to do it that way. And we also saw that medication wasn't working. I mean, we were on several different medications, and all we saw was the downside of just being tired and not really stopping the seizures. Yes, they weren't as bad, but we were still having multiple a day.
The thought of having your child have brain surgery, have a part of his brain taken out, is terrifying. I mean, when we first started this journey and that was kind of thrown out on the table, I mean, my thought was, no way, there's no possible way I would give my child to you and let you do something like that. But by the end of our journey, I was begging for the surgery in hopes of a cure for him. And I would do it 1,000,000 times over to have the kid that I have now compared to what we were doing every single day. It was the hardest and easiest decision I ever made.
What do you think? Are you glad you did surgery?
Yeah.
Why are you glad you did surgery?
I'm not as tired. I've been off meds.
Yeah.
Like only 3 left.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There will be no more by at least 2 years, hopefully.
Yeah. We're working our way down, aren't we?
These 2 don't believe me.
That's a terrifying prospect too. His ultimate goal would be completely med-free, but
I'm right.
that's terrifying as a mother to know that there's nothing on board protecting him.
I'm so right.
Miller, what else are you looking forward to?
Well, all meds off. Just no side effects with the meds. And that's pretty much it. And then I don't have to do all the stuff Mom doesn't want me to do.
Okay. What about this summer? What happens this summer? And because you're not having seizures anymore, what do you get to do this summer?
Get a driver's license.
And since we're not having seizures anymore, you can get your driver's license.
I passed it better than you 2 did.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's going to be pretty exciting.
Have you been taking driver's ed?
No.
With Mom and Dad.
with Mom Kid?
We've been driving around a little bit, haven't we?
Yeah.
Trying to learn the rules of the road.
I know the rules of the road better than you do. Mom doesn't know anything.
Easy. We need to get a couple words from you up there.
This is fantastic. This is really good. Anything that we may have missed that you particularly would like to share?
Nope. I gotta go to main event after this, so I'm ready to be done.
Good for you.
You can put that in the video.
I'll do it.
I don't think so. Is there anything else?
No.
Is there anything
mean,
we've talked about, Bridgit, that...
The only other thing we didn't really touch on, and I don't know if it really necessarily needs to be in there, is that, you know, after he was first diagnosed and we got on our first sets of medicine, we were on 2 different drugs, and we went 16 months, 18 months?
16 months.
16 months without a seizure. So we were feeling pretty confident at that point until they started back up again. That was really the only thing we didn't talk about, but I don't think that's probably really, that was at the beginning of the journey, and the last 3 years was really the fight to get to where we are now and to get him back. That's really what we were wanting.
I think for me, it was just mom to mom, being able to have those conversations and, encourage one another.
Yeah.
We're both go-getters about digging out all the information and never leaving a rock in her.
Yep.
Very similar in that aspect.
You two
Well,
should be
And
honest.
as well.
And I think one of the great things about social media too now is that I've been able to reach out to several other mothers who have children that have epilepsy or a focal cortical dysplasia diagnosis, and to know that you're not alone. Especially, we live in such a small town, like there are very few people in our community that have epilepsy, and so to be able to reach out to somebody and say, oh my gosh, I know exactly what you're talking about, or have you tried this medication? What side effects have you experienced with that is so nice to be able to have those interactions with people. We've also, I've also met another mother who has developed EEG bears. They're a little bear and they've got their EEG cap and their little backpack. And together we have, our family has donated 200 of the EEG bears to the EMU at Children's Mercy for all first-time EMU admits, so that they can have something to kind of help them through that process of that scary time when you're in the hospital having an EEG done. And I think what she's doing for these kids is amazing, and we just wanted to bring that to a place that has been so great to us too here in Kansas City. So okay. Okay, don't catch any cords.
Oh no.
Here.
You're short. You need this pillow.
When Miller was gone for appointments at the hospital, his friends did ask me, why was he gone and is he okay? And so I think that was kind of them.
Mm-hmm.
So they were always very sensitive and worried about him.
Yeah.
So
We're done.